Welcome and thank you for joining me for this video. Bearded Tits, eventually managed to get them. It's a bit like public transport. You wait for a bus for hours on end and then eventually 3 or 4 come together, and that's pretty much how it transpired with the Bearded Tits. I waited and waited for them over the last few trips, about 6 or 7 trips. Heard them, got glimpses of them, and then when they finally arrived, managed to get over an hour's footage. So the challenge this week has been trying to cut it down for the best bits and get it into a sort of reasonable, manageable length of video, which hopefully I have. So they're amazingly beautiful birds, so hopefully you enjoy. The drive down to the venue initially was quite a challenge. The fog was quite dense, and upon my arrival, the cold fog was just hanging in the air, and parts of the lake were frozen over. The first birds that I saw were these reed buntings, and I must admit, thinking to myself, if these were just the reedlings, what a great view I would have. The wind strength on my previous visits was anything from sort of 4 miles an hour up to gusts of 10 miles an hour, which I think were probably just a bit too strong. Today the forecast was initially 3 miles an hour, but then dropping to 2 miles an hour with gusts of about 5. And I've chosen on previous occasions mornings which have been quite bright, some nice golden light, but here it was quite interesting. The fog and the light cloud diffused the light, so it was quite bright, but there was no shadows. As time passed and we came mid-morning, my heart started to sink a little, thinking that I wasn't going to see them. You could hear them, the ping, that distinctive ping. Briefly, it didn't seem to want to show. And then towards the middle of the reeds, I could just catch a quick glimpse, 1s and 2s, and eventually they moved out towards the edge of the reeds. And finally, I got a decent view of them. I was amazed at how they could balance on these reeds, working their way up the stems to get to those seed heads. Although their common name is bearded tit, they're actually related distantly to the tit species, sort of found here in the reeds all year. But in autumn, with the change of diet from feeding on insects to the reed seeds, you get a slightly better chance of finding them. I love the way they grab the reeds here, doing almost the splits. When they came to the edge, the weight of them just hanging over the water. It's just a really good view as they pivot round. And this female, showing perfect balance, holding on to 2 reeds, it's giving a perfect equilibrium. And I couldn't resist this shot of the reedling and the bunting together. here. I'm assuming the lighter colour, this is a juvenile. Uncertain whether it's a male or female. A bit like the Dartford warbler, they suffer in severe winters, but with the advent of climate change and the warmer winters, their numbers are starting to rise. I think one thing I can take away from this is definitely the wind has to be really quite light. As I say, sort of 2 to 3 miles an hour max. And I think with the cold snap the last couple of days, this really means that they have to take advantage of the season and feed up. And that's what's probably brought them out. And definitely the light. This lovely diffused light, really showing them off their best, with very little shadow. As it got closer to midday, the clouds and the fog lifted, and you can see here, although slightly better colour, you can just start to see the effect of the shadows. And as it got closer to midday, they seemed to move back into the reeds, still feeding. And it was time for me to finish this, well, an amazing trip. With the cards full and the batteries drained, I drove home a very happy man. Well, hopefully you agree with me that they really are some beautiful birds, and the way in which they were balancing on the reeds was really special. Well, if you've liked it, give it a big thumbs up and subscribe. And as always, really look forward to you joining me in the next one.